Welcome to Linda's Corner. My name is Linda Bjork. I am the author of several self-help books. My most recent is called You Got This, an action plan to calm fear, anxiety, worry, and stress. It was an Amazon bestseller and has been reviewed by Online Book Club, Readsy, and the Midwest Book Review. My blog, Two Good Things, and my podcast, Linda's Corner, were created to inspire hope and motivate positive change. I'm also the founder and executive director of a nonprofit charity called Hope for Healing. My personal mission is to empower people to become their best selves, and Hope for Healing reflects that mission. We offer tools, information, resources, and a plan to increase happiness, build confidence and self-esteem, strengthen marriages and families, manage stress, and help alleviate symptoms of depression and anxiety. We offer lots of free resources, including books, audio courses, and more. We're still pretty new, only a couple of years old, but last year we had over 100,000 visitors on our website. So people are starting to notice the wonderful things that we have to offer. Today, I want to share some information that can help in dealing with depression. Perhaps you're struggling with depression or have a family member or friend who is struggling with this issue. And having a greater understanding can help you be in a better position to help them. I will clarify that nothing I say can be considered medical advice, since only a healthcare professional can do that, but this information does come from the unique perspective of someone who has been there and come back again. I spent about 5 years struggling with debilitating depression and healed by using some of the tools that I'm going to share with you today. The first thing you need to understand about depression is that it is not just in a person's head, and it's not just that they need to snap out of it. In order to understand what's going on in their mind, it's helpful to understand a little about the normal functioning of the brain. Our brains have a system of rewards that bring pleasure and help us feel good. There is a part of the brain that we call the reward center. And when we experience something pleasurable, there are neurotransmitters like dopamine, serotonin, and endorphins, which flood our neural pathways in the reward center, and that makes us feel good. Those good feelings are created by a chemical reaction in the brain. But our brains are instruments of balance, and we have another system that exerts a restraining force. This system is called the nociception modulatory system, and it emits molecules called nociceptin. In normal brain function, this is part of how the brain modulates pain, so it's a good thing. However, when systems are not functioning optimally, it causes problems, and I'll explain why. Nociceptin suppresses dopamine. In essence, it is anti-dopamine. It's like kryptonite to it. It just shuts it off. If there is an imbalance in the brain and it is producing too much nociceptin, it neutralizes feelings of joy and happiness and restrains motivation, so you feel apathetic. Nociceptin has been dubbed the frustration neuron, and that could help explain on a chemical level why we give up. From my experience, when I was in my dark place, I could look at a beautiful sunset or hear a child's laughter and feel absolutely nothing. Those good feelings normally associated with pleasant experiences were simply not there, and it was very frustrating and discouraging. The bottom line is that there are valid physiological and chemical explanations for feelings of depression, anxiety, and so on. It's not just in their head, and it's not just a simple matter of needing to snap out of it. And there's more. The natural processes of the brain make depression become progressively worse over time if it is not stopped. Let me explain. There is a network of neurons in the brainstem called the reticular activating system, or RAS, which is the gateway into the brain. All of the sensory information that we encounter first enters through the RAS, which determines where to send it. The reticular activating system acts as a filter, so we don't become overwhelmed by an overload of information. The job of the RAS is very important because it is estimated that the human brain takes in about 11 million bits of information every second. But on average, we're only consciously aware of about 40 bits of information per second. So when I say that the RAS filters information, I'm not talking about filtering out a little bit of information. I'm talking about a major filtration process, reducing input from 11 million down to 40. It is the job of the RAS to decide what is important and what can be safely ignored. When the RAS is deficient, such as in cases of autism, ADD, and ADHD, it allows too much information into the conscious mind, and it causes a sensory overload and a difficulty in being able to concentrate and focus. So the job of the RAS is very important for our safety, comfort, and the ability to function. However, the next question is, or should be, how does the RAS decide which information is important? It makes those decisions based on automatic programming that you and I created without even being aware of it. It is done on a subconscious level and is largely determined by what we focus on. If we spend a lot of time focusing on a particular thing, then the automatic subconscious programming of the RAS assumes that information must be important. That's why, say you're buying a new car and you've been researching a particular make and model, and then all of a sudden you start to notice that car everywhere. Or say you're expecting a baby, and all of a sudden you see pregnant women everywhere. The truth is that those cars and those expectant mothers were there all along, but the RAS considered that information to be something that was safe to ignore. However, now that you're focusing on it, the RAS figures that it must be important, so it points them out for you. This normal and natural system of the RAS causes some problems when we're dealing with mental and emotional issues such as depression, anxiety, and low self-esteem. A person who is struggling with depression is often focused on thoughts like, my life is miserable, people would be better off without me, there is no hope, I'm not good enough, nobody likes me, I'm a failure, and so on. Because these are the predominant thought patterns, the RAS uses this as the basis for determining what is important. This means that anything that doesn't support those negative feelings are filtered out, and the only information that enters are those things that support the depression, anxiety, low self-esteem, failure mentality, or whatever you're dealing with, while anything that is positive or uplifting is filtered out. So no matter what is actually going on around you, the only things that you notice, the only parts that actually enter the conscious mind are the negative things. This strengthens and builds on the problem by continually adding evidence that the feelings of depression or low self-esteem are valid, and the situation becomes progressively worse. Furthermore, to add insult to injury, the feelings associated with depression have been scientifically shown to be addictive. They want to grow, and they want to stay, and they're really hard to get rid of. So, when we're dealing with depression, the cards are really stacked against us, and it totally stinks. I understand how that feels. When I was in my dark place, that overproduction of nociceptins in my brain canceled out the dopamine so that I couldn't feel happy. My RAS was filtering out anything positive, so I could only see the negative in life and in myself. I felt useless, and that people would be better off without me. I felt hopeless and powerless, and those are not good feelings. Now, in order to heal from depression, anxiety, low self-esteem, or whatever, we need to successfully be able to do two things. First, we need to alter the chemistry in our bodies and our brains. And second, we need to be able to redirect the focus of that filter in our brains called the reticular activating system, or RAS. Making these changes is difficult, but fortunately, there's a difference between difficult and impossible. The initial step in healing from depression is feeling a glimmer of hope that healing is actually possible. Without hope, there is little desire to fight depression, because if your mind tells you that nothing works anyway, why bother trying anything? But there is hope for healing. Through MRI scans, we now have proof that it is possible to cause significant, measurable changes in brain chemistry and function by making conscious changes in the way we think and act. And knowing this matters because one of the most important aspects of healing and recovering from any mental or emotional issue is the belief that change is possible. Researchers call this positive expectancy, and it has a tremendous impact on whether or not any kind of treatment or therapy is successful. In order to do the hard work of changing or healing, we have to believe that changing and healing are actually options. The good news is that change really is an option. Healing is possible. We have more power than many people realize. Our bodies are designed to heal themselves. We just need to kickstart it in the right direction. So, let's talk about chemistry. Depression has a chemical basis, and that is why professional help and medication are so beneficial for treating anxiety and depression. But in addition to those options, it's also possible for a person to create changes in their body chemistry by their beliefs, words, and actions. Let me repeat that. We can do things that alter the chemistry in our brains. I'll give a quick example. You can affect the chemistry in your body to increase confidence and boost mood in just 90 seconds by doing this one simple trick. Put your chin up, smile, even if you don't feel like it. Pull your shoulders back, stand straight and tall with your hands relaxed at your sides or in fists on your hips. Keep both feet pointing forward and keep weight even on both legs. And then hold this position for 90 seconds. Research shows that holding this position for 1 to 2 minutes will not only make you appear more confident and happy, it actually makes you feel more confident and happy. I find it interesting that it was Charles Darwin who was the first to hypothesize that there is a connection between body language and our emotions that goes both ways. We smile when we feel good, but we also feel good when we smile. Today, that theory is called the facial feedback hypothesis, and it has been verified in study after study after study. The physical expressions of our body language influence our emotional experience, and it does it on a physiological, chemical level. By standing tall, pulling the shoulders back, and raising the chin, that causes a slight increase in the level of testosterone, while simultaneously lowering the level of cortisol, which is a stress hormone. These chemical changes help us feel less stressed and more confident. Furthermore, smiling, even if it's a fake or forced smile, stimulates the production of mood-enhancing neurotransmitters in the brain, like endorphins and dopamine, and that can help us feel better. So by doing a simple action that takes less than 2 minutes, we can literally modify the levels of chemicals in our body to increase confidence, boost mood, and relieve stress. And the effects can last for a couple of hours. Our body language, our actions, our words, and our thoughts can affect the chemistry in our body. which in turn affects the way that we feel. There are many tools that we can use to create positive changes in our body chemistry and help restore a healthy balance in our bodies and minds. If you would like to learn more, there's an article on the Hope for Healing website called 12 Ways to Boost Mental and Emotional Health Backed by Science. You can find it at hopeforhealingfoundation.org. In addition to changing the chemistry in our bodies, we also need to work on reprogramming the RAS filter in our brains. There are techniques that can help to make those changes as well. One technique is the power of repetition. We can create positive statements about ourselves and repeat them over and over to create a new, healthier, positive belief system. Research shows that if you hear something enough times, you begin to believe it. We are more likely to believe things that we hear over and over again just because we heard it over and over again. And it doesn't matter if it's true or not. We believe things because they are familiar. Scientists call this phenomenon the mere exposure effect, and it's baffling because it has nothing to do with truth, reason, or logic. This is one reason why it's so dangerous to have circulating thoughts and statements like, I'm not good enough, or nobody likes me, I'm a failure, and so on. If you repeat those thoughts and those statements often enough, you begin to believe them, even when they're not true. Furthermore, a child who has been told over and over again that they can't do something, or they're stupid, or worthless, or not safe, or not good enough, will accept these familiar sayings as true. The flip side of the coin is that once we believe something, whether or not it's true, our subconscious will fight to protect those beliefs by rejecting anything that is unfamiliar or contradicts what we already believe. Sadly, that means that the child who has grown up with the belief that they're stupid or worthless or not safe or not good enough will then fight and defend to support those beliefs their whole life. That is, unless they go through the conscious effort to change those beliefs. When thoughts and feelings are repeated over and over, they become familiar, and we believe them to be the only possible truth. It may seem ironic, but a person may subconsciously believe that feelings of worthlessness, unworthiness, invisibility, or rejection are more safe than feelings of being loved, valued, accepted, and appreciated, because those thoughts and feelings are unfamiliar and therefore dangerous. People often subconsciously fight to hold on to those hurtful thoughts and beliefs. They reject thoughts about happiness, positivity, hopefulness, confidence, worthiness, success, or peace because they contradict what their minds already believe to be true. The mere exposure effect makes it difficult to feel confident, worthy, happy, and successful when you're stuck in a pattern of feeling worthless, sad, hopeless, and unlovable. However, there is a difference between difficult and impossible. If a thought keeps running through your mind like, I'm not good enough, replace it with another opposite and positive statement such as, I am worthy and deserving of being loved, valued, and appreciated. I am loved, valued, and appreciated. I am good enough. And repeat that over and over again. There's a lot of truth taught in the children's book, The Little Engine That Could, by Watty Piper. Repeating, I think I can, or whatever positive mantra is applicable, really does make a difference. It won't be easy, however. When you say those things, your subconscious may tell you that they're lies. Studies show that once we believe something, we instinctively defend and protect it without even being aware of it. But if we keep at it relentlessly and consistently, that power of repetition can retrain our brains to accept those things as true. Earlier, I mentioned the RAS filter in the brain, which functions on subconscious programming and is largely determined by what we focus on. If we spend a lot of time focusing on a particular thing, then the automatic subconscious programming of the RAS assumes that information must be important. When we focus on positive things by repeating them over and over, it helps to reprogram the parameters that the RAS uses as a filter. This makes it possible for positive thoughts and positive feelings to enter our conscious mind, which in turn helps us to feel better. However, don't think that it will be easy or that a change will occur overnight. It won't be like flipping on a light switch. It is gradual, like a sunrise, and requires small, consistent, positive action steps. The reality is that healing is difficult. From my own experience, I can say that struggling with depression was hard, but trying to emerge from depression was even harder. And I'll try to explain why that is the case. I already explained about the mere exposure effect and how we believe things that are familiar, and once we believe something, whether or not it's true, our subconscious will fight to protect those beliefs by rejecting anything that is unfamiliar or contradicts what we already believe. Our subconscious believes that things that are familiar are safe, and unfamiliar things are dangerous. The job of our subconscious is to keep us safe. And without knowing it or being aware of it, we chose the parameters of what safety looks like. It looks familiar. It looks like what we already know and feel comfortable with. That means if we say or do something that is contrary to the current subconscious programming of what is familiar, the brain considers this a dangerous threat and sends out a warning that in order to be safe, you need to go back. When that warning hits, it feels like running into an impenetrable wall, and people naturally give up. So, let's look at this process from my personal experience. At the time, what looked familiar was sadness, hopelessness, and despair. That was familiar. So my subconscious decided that this is what safety looks like. And when I began the process to try to pull out of that and do things to feel happy and think positive thoughts, my subconscious freaked out. It decided that these new ideas were dangerous threats, and it sent off warning signals in my mind and body. It's difficult to adequately describe, but it literally felt like I was going to die. I felt all the emotional and physiological symptoms as if my life was being threatened, and my subconscious warned me that the only safe option was to go back. It was awful, indescribably awful, and I wanted to give up on day one. Fortunately, I had been warned that this would happen, so I knew what to do. To get through that wall, I used one of the tools from an emotional first aid kit. An emotional first aid kit is simply a list of tools or actions that cause an immediate, although temporary, positive effect, like singing, for example, and that's what I did. I cranked up one of Shakira's songs called Try Everything from the movie Zootopia and sang along. Now, singing has been scientifically proven to lower stress, relieve anxiety, and elevate endorphins, which make you feel uplifted and happy. It helps relax muscle tension and decreases the level of the stress hormone cortisol in the bloodstream, and it can help take your mind off the day's trouble to boost your mood. In addition, scientists have identified a tiny organ in the ear called the sacculus, which responds to the frequencies created by singing. The response creates an immediate sense of pleasure, regardless of what the singing sounds like, so you don't have to have an amazing voice to feel the positive effects of singing. Participants in one study showed significant decreases in both anxiety and depression levels after just 1 month of adding singing to their daily routine. And from my own experience, I can say that it really works. When I hit that wall and sang a song, I found that singing it through once wasn't enough. I had to repeat it 3 times before the feelings of panic that my life was in mortal danger subsided, and I knew that I would survive. Now, it's interesting that the remedy is surprisingly simple, but it takes some courage to follow through. Now, think about it. When you're watching a movie and a monster is chasing someone, they run away or they hide. They don't jump out and sing a song, because if they sing a song, then the monster will find them and eat them. But if they run away and hide, then there's a chance of survival. And that is what our subconscious is trying to do. It is trying to increase our chance of survival. But in this case, your subconscious is misinformed, and it's time to let our conscious mind take over. We don't want to just survive. We want to thrive. We want to be happy and confident. We want to heal. Keep a list of emotional tools handy that work best for you to use as an emotional first aid kit to work through those walls that try to obstruct progress. There's a list of emotional wellness tools that you can use as an emotional first aid kit on the Hope for Healing website at hopeforhealingfoundation.org. If we can push through these walls and keep going, then our thoughts and feelings slowly change what is familiar. And also, the RAS naturally adjusts its programming to allow positive input without fighting or outright rejecting it. This fight with our subconscious is temporary during a transition period, but it's also inevitable. And this causes many people to give up because they don't understand what's happening. All they know is that there is a warning voice in their head that they're not safe, and so they quit and retreat. But since you listened to my message today, now you know what is happening, why it's happening, and what to do about it. Now, here's a final secret that a lot of people don't understand. Education or knowledge doesn't change things. Application is what changes things. Just learning this wonderful information won't help anybody heal. What makes the difference is acting on it. It is a process of consistently following a pattern of small, positive action steps. Again, on the Hope for Healing website, we have action plans mapped out to help people not only learn this information, but also apply it. And that empowers people to change their lives. In closing, I'd like to share a quote by John C. Maxwell. He said, "You'll never change your life until you change something you do daily. The secret of your success is found in your daily routine." See you next time on Linda's Corner.